Pronto, agora nós já estamos ao vivo lá no YouTube. Vou desativar o meu vídeo aqui. Bom trabalho.
A gente vai começar a qualquer momento?
Você pode começar, falta um minutinho ainda, tá, Claudio?
Tá.
Bom trabalho, eu vou desativar o meu vídeo aqui. Fica à vontade, viu, Claudio?
Boa tarde a todos. É prazer estar aqui no evento do Congresso USP, tá? Para a palestra do professor Rui. A palestra vai ser em inglês, tá? Então eu vou fazer aqui a modificação para a língua inglesa, ok? So, thank you very much for attending this presentation. The title of the presentation is The Interplay of Management Control Systems and Social Capital in a Social Enterprise. So first of all, thank you very much, Rui, for accepting our invitation. It's a pleasure to have you here. Great professional, great friend. And I'm going to read it now his CV. Rui Vieira is an assistant professor in management control and accounting at EI, Instituto de Empresas, Business School, Madrid, Spain. He holds a PhD in Industrial and Business Studies from the University of Warwick, United Kingdom. His research focus is on management accounting, especially in the fields of management control systems, cost accounting, performance measurement, and the organization and behavior aspect of management accounting system, in which he has several publications. Before we move on to the presentation for Professor Rui, some of the rules of this presentation, some housekeeping. So the presentation will last more or less 45 minutes, and you have by the end 50 minutes for around 50 minutes for questions, answers. And as you can see, you can use the chat tools here on YouTube for your questions. So my suggestion is to ask during the presentation, because I'm going to read your comments and then select the questions. I'll try to be fair and select the questions for Rui. So my advice to you to ask your questions at any time, not wait for the end, because by the end you'll be a bit confused. So I'm going to speak this little bit in português. Você pode fazer a pergunta pelo chat aqui, tá, do YouTube, durante a apresentação, que eu vou coletando aqui as perguntas e no final eu faço as perguntas para o professor Rui, tá? Não espera para o final, porque senão fica muito difícil gerenciar tudo ao mesmo tempo, né? Você sabe que é difícil para uma pessoa só ficar olhando as perguntas e ao mesmo tempo ver quais seriam as questões que seriam feitas. Muito obrigado, Rui, de novo, agradecer, e a palavra é sua. Tem que abrir o microfone, Rui.
Muito obrigado, Cláudio, pela apresentação. Eu gostaria de começar por agradecer não só a você, que para além da apresentação também vai fazer uma discussão à volta do artigo, mas também queria agradecer à Universidade de São Paulo a possibilidade de apresentar o nosso trabalho aqui. É um trabalho que é em conjunto. Eu vou partilhar a minha tela. É um trabalho em conjunto com Brandon O'Dwyer e Trithit Laha. E eu vou fazer a apresentação em inglês. So the paper I'm going to present is about the interplay between management control systems and social capital in social enterprises. And I'm talking particularly about a case study in a social enterprise in Vietnam. Let me give you just an introduction about an overview about the paper itself. So as I said before, I'm going to look at how management control systems can influence both the bonding and the bridging dimensions of social capital, and at the same time being influenced by social capital. Okay, the setting is a social enterprise in Vietnam that I will introduce briefly. So just to give an overview, we have a situation about a social enterprise that works on hospitality industry, and it's very much based on informal management control systems with very strong belief systems. They have some formal management control systems beside the belief systems, but basically focus on social goals. They don't have much it's very weak, the boundary controls, the boundary systems that they have in place. So because of this lack of internal controls, these are going to lead to a mismanagement situation. So we have a situation where this informality actually increase the bonding within the organization and sort of inhibits formal management control systems. But because this leads to a mismanagement situation which threats social, cultural, and economical capital, this eventually might lead to a loss of trust, of legitimacy within the company. So we have a crisis, an internal crisis situation where the leader plays a key role in order to try to deal with the situation. And management control systems are important because this lack of internal control systems, of more financial boundary controls, led the organization to this problematic situation. However, they use social capital to sort of address the problem and try to face the crisis and eventually implement other forms of control. So this crisis situation will lead to the implementation of more formal control systems. So let me talk a little about some concepts, some theoretical background that are important within this paper. The first one is the concept of hybrid organizations. So hybrid organizations are organizations that face dilemma. They usually face different type of goals. And I'm focusing particularly in a social enterprise. A social enterprise is basically a business that generates income from business activities to spend in social activities. So they have this basically combined model where they need to combine social outcomes with the generation of financial support to address those issues. So there is always a tension here, in particular between the social side and the commercial side of the company. I'm also going to focus on social capital. And to talk about social capital, I think probably the most important reference is Bourdieu, which identifies three types of capital: social, economic, and cultural capital. And economic capital is, well, it's easier to understand, and even in a social enterprise company, that is important because they need money, they need financial resources to achieve their goals, although their goals are very much on social capital. Cultural capital, on the other hand, is the set of ideas, practices, beliefs, or traditions that identify the organization and bind people together within the organization. And social capital, it's very much the part that outlines the value of networking. Basically, and this is very important, these two concepts regarding social capital, I'm particularly interested on bonding, the dimension of bonding in terms of similar people within the organization and bridging between diverse people outside the organization, okay? So understanding social capital is very important in order to understand how people interact with each other. In terms of management control systems, I'm looking at the levels of control from Simon's 1995. So, I mean, we can differentiate between formal and informal management control systems. And then Simon's identified the levels of control as formal, information-based routines and procedures that managers use to maintain and alter patterns in organizational activities. And he identifies 4 levels of control. The belief systems, that's the set of values that the organization share. Boundary systems, that's the part that deals more with risks to be avoided, try to identify what are the boundaries, what type of things the organizations should not cross, so should not engage. And then we have the more diagnostic or interactive systems. So we have systems that will allow to manage, to control and to evaluate performance that could be used either more diagnostically or more interactively. Now, one thing that is also quite important on the case that I'm also going to present to you is about the leader. About this, well, we have a crisis situation. So how can leaders deal with crisis? And I'm particularly looking at James and Wood's paper, where they identified 2 types of crises. And in my particular case, what I'm interested in is what they call smoldering crisis, so internal crisis, where basically what we have in question is that usually it's a result of something that happens internally, and that might grow up, and we might damage even the reputation of the organization and the reputation of the leaders within the organization. So it's quite important here to look as well as the role of the leader and how the leader deals with the crisis. So let me talk a little more about the case study. Let me start by introducing Koto. Koto is a Vietnamese social enterprise. Koto stands for Know One, Teach One. So it's basically a social enterprise that has 2 restaurants in Vietnam, and basically what they do is they take youth, so teenagers or young people from the street. They provide them a 2-year, so 24-month training within the hospitality industry. So this goes from kitchen, barman, waiter activities, but also relates with English. It relates with self-confidence, with they deal with the youth that eventually might have faced significant problems. So they try to empower them. They try to provide them a family, and I'm using the word family because we are going to see just in a few moments that family actually is the right word, is something very important within the organization. Research method. So we conduct a case study trying to understand how management control systems influence, and on the other hand are also influenced by the bonding and the bridging dimensions of social capital. So in order to do that, one of my co-authors is from Vietnam. She actually works with the NGO, not this one, but she's quite familiar with the context. So she is Vietnamese, so she also is familiar with the country, and she actually was the one that got very good contact and access to Koto. So it's quite interesting. If we look at their official website, you can see that if you are in a position where you can help someone less fortunate, then you should help them. The greatest thanks you can receive is to see one day that person in a position to do the same for someone else. So this is something that you can see it from the Koto official website. Okay, so what we did was we prepared a visit for 2 months, but we prepared that visit, which was, I mean, we can say sort of limited in time. So we had 2 months to visit the company. Actually, one of the authors visit the company, but we prepare it very well. So beforehand, we get access to internal documents. We sort of prepare very well the interviews. So we did 11 semi-structured interviews. They were all digital, recorded. They took an average of 77 minutes. But other than that, we also did several unstructured, informal interviews, talks. We had the possibility of observe and attending meetings. In particular, it was quite important because this 2-month visit include the graduation period within the organization. So there was a particularly important period, 1 week, where the students graduate to interact and to see a special event. Only happens twice a year within the organization. So Koto, as I said, works in the hospitality industry. So it basically helps street and disadvantaged youth, which start off as unskilled, insecure, and usually people with low self-esteem. So they might face problems, before. And basically, after this 2 years program, hopefully they will become skilled, confident, and someone that could get a good job within the industry, in the hospitality industry. The company itself was founded in September 2000 by an Australian Vietnamese person. As I said before, it's a 24-month vocational training, includes training in practical skills in different areas within the hospitality industry, but also English language training. It includes communication, healthy living styles, anger management, and all these type of things. They have 2 restaurants and 2 training programs, one in the 2 main cities in Vietnam. One is located in Hanoi and the other one is Ho Chi Minh City. They have 70 staff working at full time. And besides that, per year, they have 30 to 40 volunteers, mostly international, coming up to help. They take around 90 to 100 trainees divided into 4 classes at different intakes. So they have 2 intakes per year. So they have 2 funding sources. From one side, they depend on donations, sponsorship, fundraising events that they do. But at the other side, they also have revenues that are generating from the restaurants owned by the company, or catering services, or cooking classes, training courses. for corporations or for anyone of the public that might be interested within this area. So one thing that I'd like to emphasize is this idea that it's a company with a very strong cultural capital. You have here on this slide the vision, the mission, and the culture. And let me start with the culture. I think this is very important. They say we are a family, okay, which cares about all others and where big smiles bring the promise of love, compassion, and security. It's very interesting because they treat themselves, among themselves, as brother, sister, father. So it's really more than, it's a very strong family, so I think you can understand that the bonding within the organization is very, very, very high. The vision, for instance, we believe in the right of every young person to live their lives with skills, dignity, and pride. We empower young people. So this empowerment is very, very important, okay? With necessary life skills to make the right decisions, have confidence, and invest positively in themselves and in their community. So they have these very strong belief systems. They have this very strong bonding internally. However, there is some issues. I mean, economical capital is an issue. Of course, they need to fund these social initiatives that they have. And one of the key issues that they have is in terms of sustainability. And we can identify 3 types of sustainability. Well, one that is particularly important is financial sustainability. Basically, 40%, at the date of the study, 47% of the total income comes from donations. So almost half of it. And however, the target that they were aiming at that stage were to increase 70% from operations and only 30% from donations. Okay, so try to reduce the amount of dependency regarding donations. They have at the time they had a loss of around 9% of their total annual income. Okay. Now, another issue that is important to notice is, and it was very problematic at that particular stage, is what we call equity sustainability. Basically, they are working in premises that are rented, and over the last years, before we conduct the study, the prices in terms of housing renting increase 3 times. So, and this represents for them a lot, because this represents basically around 1/3 of their annual spending. So this was a key concern for them. The other area that they were trying to develop further is what we can call livelihood sustainability. We are talking about set up a network of graduates, alumni, and help people before, during, and after graduation. And this creates a network where once you graduate, once you become alumni, in turn you will give something back, and you will help future people within the organization. So there is a clear concern that they are not yet sustainable. They are still very much in a highly risky situation. They depend a lot on donors, and they need to do a work in these grounds. So it is clear when we conduct this case that there is a tension between cultural capital and economic capital. So Koto has been very successful in implementing its social mission. They are contributing to the society. people that work within the social enterprise, they are very proud to work here. So they feel very high, they're very happy with themselves to be addressing this type of issues. They love their job. I mean, we have lots of people, so they feel very happily within the organization. However, there is always this difference between social and financial goals, where, of course, there is when this question is raised, they tend to emphasize the social goals. Just one final thing in terms of the situation at the time is not true anymore. But when we conduct this case, there was also a legal concern. There was not yet a law on associations at the time regarding social enterprises in Vietnam. So, for instance, what basically the implications that he has, for instance, was things like if so the revenues that they generate on the restaurant, they had to pay taxes over it, okay, because they were not yet protected as a social enterprise. So regarding the income that they generate within the restaurants, they had to pay. There was a tax liability related with. Okay, let me focus a little more about social capital and these two dimensions within social capital, the bonding and the bridging. So within the bonding, as I mentioned before, they talk a lot about Koto family, okay? It's quite interesting what they say, for instance, on their trainee handbook. You are beautiful inside and out, and your spirit is fresh, alive, and ready to be open to new experience. Koto believes in you. So they have this very important relationship within within the trainees, but also between trainees and the trainers, okay? This is like my second home, okay? That's, for instance, one of the trainees, okay? Everybody is so kind to each other. So we are talking about a family-oriented culture. People very happy to be there, trainees to see it as an opportunity to a better future, trainers feeling themselves very proud of being contributing to address these social issues. Regarding the bridging dimension, it's also very important to notice that Koto has a significant number of alliances within other entities. And in particular, I would like to emphasize probably two here that are here outlined more in green, because they're also going to play a key role within this mismanagement situation, which is the alumni. So former students from Koto that are now placed and can help, you know, getting some business, getting internships, you know, at the end trying to provide jobs to the new graduates and so on. So, I mean, they are a very important alliance that Koto established. The other one is being educational organizations. And by the way, we are here talking about different type of organizations, both in Vietnam and also in particular with Australian organizations. And this is important to just to repeat because I mentioned it before. But the CEO, the leader of the organization is Australian Vietnamese person. So he also has very good contacts within Australia. So what were the management control systems at Koto? First of all, I would like to emphasize there were a huge amount of informal management control systems. So they have verbal meetings, they have informal talks. Everything is very informal, okay? And what we are going to see is that why this happened, what's happening, what this eventually led, and what was the response to deal with the situation. Not only because the company is growing, but also because, as I'm going to explain, there was a mismanagement situation. So let me go through the 4 levels of control. This is already, you already saw this one, is basically the belief systems. As I said before, it's a very strong, so this is formal control systems. They are very strong. They are this family culture, this focus on helping the social, the people in achieving their training and to improve their social situation. So the social goals of Koto are very much emphasized here. Being a training, a vocational training organization, it's important to notice that as any other type of organization like this, they have sort of handbook. So they have a Koto trainee handbook and the Koto staff handbook, where basically they define what is expected and what is not expected. So how basically the trainees, but also the staff, depending on what we are talking about, should behave and what is not an acceptable behavior. So the idea here is they try to limit unwanted behaviors or actions that might damage the operation of Koto and also Koto's image. Okay. So this is boundary systems, but it's important to notice that what they have here is basically related with their training vocational area, so with their social goals. Then they have either interactive or diagnostic, and I must say that they are more dominant interactively. Control systems that, as I said, they are used more interactively, that relates very much again with this training process. So going from recruitment, training, they have weekly meetings where they plan, where they schedule, where they report, where they discuss, they evaluate. They do it in a very, very interactive way, okay? Including the head of the department and also eventually the CEO of the company, okay? There is also performance evaluation, of course, both for the trainees, it's a vocational training institution, but also for the staff, okay? Every 3 months, every 6 months, so twice a year, staff is evaluated. Again, let me emphasize this is very much related with the training, with the social goals that the Koto has. However, they also have an annual budget plan, which basically then is related with monthly action plans and some reports about what's happening in each department. So this one, they have it, is the one that is more related with the financial aspect. So what was the outcome of this situation? The outcome of this situation was we have an organization where social capital is very strong. People bond. They are very happy to work within this organization. So these informal management control systems, even when they have formal control systems, the one that they have more are related with belief systems and with the social goals that the company has. Notice as well that they do not have, or they have very weak internal controls. And this is very important, okay? So what this basically led was, this leads to a financial mismanagement situation. So we have here some quotes of people reporting this situation. So they were relying too much on individuals. This family, this sense of everyone working together to achieve a goal, to help youth people, to train them, to help them socially, to help prepare them to have a job. So people really were very happy with doing that. But somehow they led to a situation where, from a financial point of view, this led to problems. So this creates a huge amount of organizational instability. And this was a big problem. How to deal with this problem was very important. Basically, the consequences were dramatic. They replaced approximately 1/3 of the employees. Okay, they needed to decentralize, empower. So people were not very happy with this situation. I mean, not only people left because of the problems that they have, but because people felt betrayed by other people within the organization. The consequences as well to basically to try to strengthen, to improve the internal control systems. You know, for instance, tighter the control at purchasing processes. You know, trying to avoid, because I think that was one of the problems, that the suppliers were someone that they knew or someone from the family. So there were problems with that area. So another consequences of this was that this leads the company to look at implementing more control systems, particularly boundary control systems, and more within the financial area. So we sort of seeing a new focus on economic capital. Okay. Now, how to deal with this situation? They use social capital. So, and not only internal, so not only the people that were internally, but also those two networks that I mentioned before with the alumni and with volunteers and social and teaching organizations to sort of help rescuing the situation. So now that I give an idea about this mismanagement situation, let me try to explain some of the main conclusions. Initially, we have a situation where there was a significant amount of informal controls. Although there were strong belief systems, the main formal control systems that they have were focused on social goals. And this was particularly useful because this increased social capital, and in particular, the bonding. Now, this mismanagement situation led us to the conclusion that formal control systems at that stage, which initially were, you know, prevented to be implemented, at this stage, to deal with the situation, actually people accept. So people, it was easy to implement these formal control systems because people perceived the need of these control systems. So they basically tried to implement ERP systems. They tried to use these formal control systems to increase trust, to increase accountability within the organization, and regain legitimacy. And this was particularly important because they have alliances with sponsors, so accountability is very important. They also have alliances with the potential employers, with educational institutions. So it was very important to that. So formal control systems in this particular case does not damage internal bonding, contrary to what we might expect. Another thing that is important to look at is belief systems. So belief systems are very important in terms of bonding. So they create a very strong motivation to work. So this proud of being part of these initiatives, of sharing, of being solidar. So try to. It was quite important, but at the same time, they use this as well to increase outward partnership. So we can have bonding. You know, these belief systems can help with bonding, but they do not impede outward partnership. So the bridging is still possible as well. So despite this strong bonded by the family values, Koto was able and open to external partnerships, and they were very important to deal with the situation. So it's very important, and by the way, this paper that I'm presenting, it's actually under revision, and I'm now rewriting it. And one of the things that I'm emphasizing on the rewriting is this role of the leader. Okay, so I'm trying to emphasize the way the leader dealt with the situation in order, for instance, to increase trust. It's very important to notice that this was a dramatic situation. There was a sense of betrayal. You know, I mean, if you believe, if within this situation with very strong, very high bonding within the organization, this was dramatic, and lots of people felt, you know, unsafe. They felt betrayed, and so it was very important to make sure that employees feel safe within the organization. That it's very important to communicate openly, honestly within people, and that so internally, but at the same time also send a sign towards stakeholders that they are important, and the organization is addressing this issue, and accountability becomes very important. So it's almost like you need to change the mindset of the organization, and it's very important that they identify the issue with management control systems as one of their vulnerabilities, and that was one of the areas where they need to make rapid decisions, and people accept it. So people tend to accept, particularly after that situation, the implementation of those situations. It's also very important that this was perceived as a very important organizational learning situation. So, and hopefully both leadership and the organization came out stronger out of this situation. And I also want to emphasize that the 4 levels of control are needed to balance social and economic goals. So this last point here leads towards the literature, or contributes towards the literature of the levels of control, which is a 25 years old framework that has been used quite widely, but it's very fragmented, the literature on that area. Very often, lots of papers, not many papers, focus on the 4 levels of control altogether. So sometimes they focus on just a few, and the majority of the research published within this area, it's either focus on the interactive control systems, or this relationship, how to be used between interactively or diagnostic. So what we also want to, one of the contributions of this paper is the role that belief systems and boundary systems play within this situation. So rather than just having a diagnostic versus interactive control systems discussion around this crisis situation, how to deal with that, we are trying to explain that we have a different use of management control systems. The 4 levels of control play a key role in terms of dealing with the situation. So including boundary and belief systems. And this also is very important because we are talking about a social enterprise where social capital is really, really important. So I have a final slide here, which very much summarizes what I mentioned in the beginning and just now. So we have a situation where it's this interplay. So management control systems, and initially they were based on informal control systems, that led to an increase of social capital, particularly very strong bonding within the organization. However, this over-reliance of informal management control systems led to a mismanagement situation, particularly because there was a lack of internal controls, okay, which in turn threats to erode social, but also cultural and economic capital. So this is a very crucial situation that leads the need to formal management control systems, particularly because they have already very strong belief systems, but particularly the boundary systems, and the including goals more financial on the financial area. It was very important, the belief systems and the boundary systems. Actually, the 4 levels of control were very important to balance social and economic goals. But within this management of the crisis situation, belief and boundary systems were key. Also very important was how the leader addressed the crisis and the implementation of formal management control systems. So yeah, so this is the company. So it's a very interesting setting. It's in Vietnam, usually an area there is not much research on. It's a double hybrid organization, so different goals, that is growing and face a financial crisis. And it's focused on management control systems. Thank you very much. Terminei. Muito obrigado. Estou aberto para questões.
Ok, muito obrigado, Rui. Se quiser parar de compartilhar a tela para a gente debater um pouco. Okay. Thank you for your presentation, Rui. And it's a very interesting setting, very interesting paper. This generates a bit of debate here on YouTube, especially the setting of your research. For example, Professor Paulo Lustosa, he comments that he make a comment that generated a bit of a debate with the other participants of the chat about the nature of the business. He has a comment about the more Koto transforms itself in a market-oriented business, the more it will be pressure to strengthen its weak internal control system. And a couple of people comment on this point, show this different, the importance of balance and the difficulty of being a social enterprise and focus also in the profitability and maintain the health, the financial health of the company. So I think this generates a bit of debate on YouTube here in terms of the nature of the business. Okay, these are comments that I want to make here that was show the interest in the setting. And a comment that I have that social enterprise is an important set to understand because it's something quite unique. Because I remember a while ago when I was seeing your paper, and I didn't understand exactly what a social enterprise, not an NGO, it's not a for-profit company. So it's very interesting set. So I'll just highlight this comment here. So we have another questions for you here, a couple of questions. First here, Eduardo Lavarda, former president of AppCont, he asked, congratulations, Rui, for the presentation. And he asked, a difficult issue in qualitative research is to assess the influence of the one variable on another. How was this point handling your research? Because sometimes you have so different concepts that you want to deal in, like intertwine. You want to know how you can segregate this and have a storyline that is coherent.
Well, here there is a very, very, very additional difficulty. This was conducted in Vietnam, except 2 interviews that were conducted in English. The other interviews were conducted in Vietnamese. I don't speak. So we have all the, well, the good thing is we have, internal documentation is also in English, so they have everything in English. Okay, the interviews were not transcribed. Well, they were transcribed in Vietnamese, and only parts of it were translated, totally translated into English. The parts that were important, that we felt were important to the case. And the good thing here was the person that conducted the case studies, so that did the visit into the social enterprise. So she is Vietnamese. She works on an NGO, a different organization, but she's quite familiar with the concept. So she managed to get. She was very passionate about about the company. But I agree, it's very difficult to measure the different variables. But that's part of the qualitative research.
Thank you. I'm going to try to combine the two comments here from Joshua and Veronica. Joshua said that congratulations for the presentation, and he asked you to be able to classify Koto as a small business enterprise. And Veronica asked that Koto seems a familiar business, like run by family. And they ask about if they had some was a problem for governance or is a not normal problem that the social enterprise companies can face in Vietnam, or something very specific to Vietnam, or more general that the case can be understood as related to small business companies or family business company in terms of the weakness of the government system, the governance system.
Okay, let me just say that the case study was conducted almost nine years ago, and at that stage there was no. So there was no. That is not true anymore. But at that stage there was not regulations for social enterprise. So legally, they were facing lots of problems, and this is well. I think I agree with the point that it looks like a family type of organization, right? It's not the case in the traditional sense. It's not okay, but this cultural this family culture, this bonding is a characteristic that is very often, not always actually, but that might be similar to some of the characteristics of family organizations. And in this particular case, at that stage, in particular, they were facing huge restrictions due to the lack of regulatory framework to regulate their activities. Okay.
Anderson Braga, he asked as a question here, is there assumption that a higher emphasis on informal controls relative to formal controls makes a control system weaker? Or is this the case only in this particular case of specific reasons? There is specific reasons for that stuff. Did you get me? Yeah.
If the lack of formal control systems makes the control systems weaker, right?
Yeah, higher emphasis in formal controls relative to formal control makes a control systems weaker.
What we observe on this case is the fact that this over-reliance on informal control systems, and they have, regarding that, they have very strong belief. So it's not true that they don't have formal control systems. They have some formal control systems, particularly belief systems. And that is very important, okay? And they also have boundary systems, and even lots of them are used in a very interactive way of dealing with the vocational training, so their social activities. Now, the lack of more internal control systems, which, by the way, Simons tends to say it's like a cement. So like something that gives power to, and the other thing is initially they were not very balanced. Particularly the lack of boundary systems. So this led to this mismanagement situation, which was a surprise, because initially, so this was good in terms of increasing social capital, and this sense. But then it's interesting how they use the social capital, this bonding and the bridging, so internally, but also with the alumni, with people that were collaborating with the organization to sort of deal with the situation, manage the crisis, and eventually leads to accept and to be able to implement more formal control systems, and in a more balanced way. Balance in two ways. Balance in terms of the levers, so they implement more, boundary systems. They emphasize more things that they were or no existent, or they were very weak. And on the other hand, also balanced in the sense that they combine now, and they have systems that allow them to control over not only the social goals, but also the economic goals. And this is very important because all this mismanagement situation would undermine eventually, due to the lack of accountability, the lack of trust, would undermine the successful achievement of their social goals. So they feel this need to address properly the situation and to learn out of the situation and come out of it as a stronger organization.
Okay, thank you, Rui. It's interesting your comment about the balance between this economic aspect and the social aspect of the business, the bond and bridging, because it was one of the main comments that you got here on YouTube, that is difficult to balance, be market-oriented at the same time have a social goal. So this is an interesting setting. And you have a very interesting find for management control systems, that the idea that formal control systems can help you to increase the bond aspect of your business. That's very interesting. I think you make this point in your paper compared to the previous literature. I think it's a very nice finding. And as the topic is the set is very interesting and something that I don't know, I didn't see much here in Brazil, social enterprise and research related to management accounting control systems. I see a lot of research on NGOs, but not in social enterprise. Do you have any advice for the researchers in Brazil, how interesting topics that you can explore in this setting or related management control systems or other governance aspects or any other kind of business management systems related to social enterprise for future research in Brazil or in general? Some kind of some ideas for you.
what I can, well, let me just say one thing. So this paper we have under review and actually is due Sunday, 31st of, I think it's Sunday, or so sorry, first, the last day is the 1st of August, so I think it's Sunday. So it's a special issue on AAAJ about hybrid organizations. So hybrid organizations, for me, it's particularly interesting. So I'm in a management accounting area. I'm also a qualitative researcher. I'm particularly interested in these management control systems. And what I found interesting in social enterprises or NGOs, for that matter, but also hospitals, I think it's very interesting in hospitals as well, is how companies address these tensions between different set of goals. You know, in this particular case, it's between social and economic. But you know, in a healthcare organization, could be the patients, the economic. So I mean, how do these organizations address these different goals, and how the role management control systems can play within this area? And I think there are lots of opportunities of research in this area. As you said, there are not much research done on this area, particularly when I'm saying this with the role of management control systems. Okay, And it sort of brings together literature from accounting with literature more on social enterprises or hybrid organizations, because actually there is not in accounting. Well, in accounting there is some, but not as much. But within the management area and strategic area, strategy, there are a significant amount of literature that deal with these issues. So I think it's very interesting in terms of this interdisciplinarity of research.
Okay, thank you very much, Rui. I think our time is up here. So it was a pleasure.
Thank you very much for the questions. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending these seminars. I mean, I'm going to attend. I'm in Madrid, so I mean, not physically. No one is attending it physically, but I'm around. I will be more than happy to talk with anyone that, if you know, informally, you know, through. Yeah, I think. Well, my email is Rui.Vieira, which is this on my window at ai.edu. Okay, and so I will be glad to talk with other people, and if there are more questions. Okay.
Thank you very much, Rui. Muito obrigado, Rui. Abraço e boa noite para você.
Obrigado, boa noite.